News and information 570 AM.
96.3 FM HD2. KLIF Dallas. KSCS FM HD2 Fort Worth. KLIF.com.
A Cumulus station.
Now, from the 5th floor Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, it's time for Inside Real Estate. Here's your host, Michael Kruizinga.
Good morning, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Welcome to Inside Real Estate. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. Come on in. By the way, we're here every Sunday morning, 8 to 9 a.m., We hope you tune in and check us out every Sunday morning. By the way, we don't always just talk real estate. We also talk mortgage, insurance, home improvement. We talk some politics, a little sports, a little entertainment, and all kinds of good stuff. We've got a great show for you today. Great show. By the way, if you want to call in, 888-787-KLIF, 888-787-KLIF. Here in studio, we've got Rocky Martin, one of the greatest in the mortgage business at Supreme Lending Rockwall. He's going to be here live for us. We're going to talk all kinds of mortgage talk, folks. So if you want to call in and talk to him, you might want to go ahead and get in the queue. Give us a shout, 888-787-KLIF. Don't forget our app, folks, DFW Metroplex Real Estate, provided by SnapRealEstate.com. Real simple, very efficient app for searching homes. You can do that in Android or Apple formats. Check that out. Of course, we're on Pinterest, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. You can always connect to all of that from the website, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Our Pinterest page has links to all of the stories that we cover, so you can always check out that, okay? Hey, here's what we're doing today. We're going to do mortgage talk. Like I said, we got Rocky Martin here in studio. We're going to do a little insurance talk with J.C. Harder over at Goosehead Insurance. We're going to talk a little bit about headlines, and then at the end of the show, we've got a candidate who's running for the railroad commissioner job, who is also a sitting Texas real estate commissioner. We've got Weston Martinez is going to be calling in on the show later in the show, so we're looking forward to talking to him. We're going to talk a little bit of real estate to him, and of course we're going to talk to him about the run for railroad commissioner, and maybe throw a few things out there to you about the railroad commissioner job that maybe you don't even know about. So we will get that going here just shortly. Hey, wanted to mention this real quick. We had Coach Joseph Prudhomme on the show a few months ago, head coach of Nolan Catholic. He's a 7-time state champ and been over there at Nolan Catholic for a few decades, and was really excited to see this. He is going to take over the Texas Wesleyan football program. And by the way, that program has been out since World War II. So Texas Wesleyan is starting that program back up, and really excited to see that he was tapped for that job, and he's just such a great coach, and to build that from scratch, that's awesome for him. And by the way, he's going to be on the show here coming up sometime in March. We chatted with him the other day, and so big congratulations to him, and looking forward to talking to him about that program that he's going to be building over at Texas Wesleyan. Hey, let's talk a little bit of headlines real quick here. We talked about this story a few different times, this UDF story, and their website was udfexposed.com. Of course, Kyle Bass's Heyman Capital Management Group was accusing UDF of their Ponzi-like scheme operations going on. UDF is tied to financing a lot of home building projects through real estate trusts and their other subsidiaries. They have been cooperating in an investigation with the Securities and Exchange Commission since 2014. But, of course, as I reported on the last show, FBI raided their offices, and so we're yet to see exactly what's going on over there. Shares of UDF, of course, have tumbled down to like $3 and change back before all this started, before Kyle Bass started this campaign against UDF. Shares were closer to $20, and so interesting to see what shakes out of all this, because this group is tied behind the scenes to a lot of financial development here in the DFW area. So interesting to see what happens there. Hey, Tiger Woods, did you know the first Tiger Woods designed golf course in the U.S. is going to be opening up soon down in Houston area? And there's also going to be a brand new community around that. Blue Jack National, a new luxury golf resort, is going to be opening up. And they just built their first model home down there. And all these sort of homes and smaller cottages are going to be, running from around 600 to $1 million or so. And they had a soft opening of the golf course in November, but then the grand opening will be coming up here in April. And, of course, this was at the former site of the Blake Tree National Golf Club. So first Tiger Woods designed golf course opening up, and then, of course, the new homes opening up around it. Hey, here in Dallas, one of the oldest Oak Cliff landmarks is going on the market, built in 1905. One of the last surviving Victorians in Oak Cliff has gone on the market, about $575,000, and 111 years old, but it has been rezoned commercial currently. Great little property there. Piece of history right there. So check the Pinterest page for that full story. That's kind of a neat story there. I talk about the fact that we're building all the time. We got 4,600 downtown area apartments being built, about 1,900 of which here in the downtown area and Victory Park projects, and then another 2,700 in uptown. And we need as much alleviation in homes and in apartments as we can. Dallas area is just growing non-stop. And over in Arlington, let's see what we got over there. Construction beginning on $200 million redevelopment over there by Globe Life Park. There was some 1970s era apartment complexes kind of over there that are just a mess over there still, and they're starting to redevelop that. Now, it's not expected to be done until 2026, but first phase hoping to be complete by 2018. So it's good they're getting started on that. Of course, $10.5 million in city economic incentives is helping it out. The Nehemiah Company has been starting construction on that, so that's a good deal. Another 1,300 apartments coming to the Arlington area, at least over time there. Highland Homes is growing, and they're doing extremely well. They're picking up another 40,000 square feet of office space, and so they're growing their business. That's about a 13% increase. And, of course, this company's 30 years old, sold $1 billion or so in revenue and built more than 50,000 homes, and so they're growing, and they're growing their office space to go with it. That's about it for the headlines right now, folks. What I want to get into, and we'll bring Rocky in on this, is we're going to talk about what's going on in the market and talk about multiple offers. And we're going to do about maybe 5 minutes on that. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come on back for the full-on mortgage segment. But let's get Rocky in here on this. Hey, Rocky, how are we doing today?
Good morning, Mike. Doing great. Happy Sunday. All good. We're today's Sunday, and multiple offers, real estate. Listening to your headlines is pretty amazing. I mean, we love living in the state of Texas. Lots of good things are happening. We're bringing a lot of people in from around the nation that want to live here in the Texas area, and as a result, listening to your numbers on Highland Homes and all the other growth with building housing via single-family dwelling or apartments to keep up with the demand for housing. So we all got to have a place to live, and for you and I that are in the business to sell homes, for us to finance the homes, we're running into challenges right now. We're hearing terms in Texas that we've never heard: multiple offers, highest and best, and this is kind of new to a certain degree here in the Texas market. Mm-hmm. In other states, Florida, California, that was kind of the norm. Sure. And so here we are. It's February. We're almost in March, and we're getting into the busy buying season. And so, we're visiting on, some of the issues with multiple offers. And you're an agent. You list houses. and in a real estate transaction, there's always a buyer and a seller. And typically there's always circumstances. If we don't meet our deadlines, if we don't get the contract done, we don't close on time. And let's talk about multiple offers. What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, it's on both sides. It's difficult. I mean, if you're a buyer, get ready to strap it on and get going. But here's the thing, don't get frantic out there, okay? First of all, you're going to need to be ready to rock and roll. You're going to need to have your pre-approval letter from Rocky and his team. You got to get that done, taken care of before you get out looking, because guess what? You're going to find what you want before you think you're going to. You're not going to be able to pull the trigger, and then guess what? You've lost it, because homes are going on the market and literally having multiple offers the same day it comes up. And that's, if the property is priced right, looks good, and it's halfway marketed decently, it's going to go. You got to do a pretty bad job of listing it, and a lot of agents do, and yours may sit a while longer, or if it's just something unique or different. But by and large, priced right, looks good, ready to go, it should go, and you'll get multiple offers pretty much right away, assuming you're in an area of demand. There are some areas of the Metroplex that aren't necessarily in super high demand. If it's an older home, still needs to be updated, maybe not so much. But, you need to be ready to get that offer in right away. But don't get frantic. And here's the thing is, if you're working with an agent that gets frantic as well, and that's why we talk about all the time, who's your agent? How are you picking your agent? Are you just picking the hottest looking picture on the internet?
Well, you're right. I mean, a great real estate agent is very, very key to a successful transaction and helping you find, not just something that you want to settle for, but something that you can call your home. And then on the seller side, a good agent is one that can evaluate your offers. When it hits the market and 5 minutes later, you've got 25 showings, and by noon, you've got offers coming in. By 3 o'clock, you're trying to evaluate 20 offers on a real estate property. This is so critical, that why it is so important to get with a real estate agent that you feel comfortable with, because they've really got to look at these offers and evaluate these offers. It can be a big deal if the wrong offer is accepted, and the seller goes out, buys another house, and we have a domino, maybe 8 transactions, and this one transaction really was not a very good offer.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, because if your seller is purchasing another property, the stability of that transaction is based on the stability of the transaction that you're about to sell that property. And so that can be a real problem. You're right. You don't want to find out 3 weeks later, when you're 3 weeks into buying another property, that the offer on your property, they're going to bail out for whatever reason.
And I've seen realtors, I've seen agents in the last 12 months doing a fabulous job for their customers. We're the mortgage company, we're a big part of the transaction, and we're seeing listing agents that are calling the loan officer that provide the pre-approval letter and really quizzing them, and making sure that, was it just something they typed up a letter and sent out, or did they actually have pay stubs, bank statements? Do we have an automated loan approval? And these things are so important, for people that are looking to purchase a home. Let's say they're looking for the summer, they really need to start now, because not just do they need to get a pre-approval, they need to get loan approval. They need to be ready to go. And because of the circumstances in real estate, multiple offers and seller situations and whatnot, a lot of things are riding on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk more about this with Rocky Martin here in a second. Folks, inside Real Estate Micros, again, we're going to take a short break. Be right back. With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032. Living in the DFW area, expansive clay soil and extreme weather conditions play havoc on homes' foundation. But thankfully, you can turn to PermaPure Foundation Repair of Texas, who has successfully repaired over 20,000 properties and counting in the DFW area. With the most trusted, tried and true foundation repair methods, trust the professional staff of PermaPure Foundation Repair to take care of your property, and most repairs are backed by a lifetime transferable warranty. Mention Inside Real Estate Radio when calling PermaPure at 214-637-1444 or when booking online at permapure.com for your Inside Real Estate Radio discount.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, Mike Kruizinga. We are back inside real estate. Website's InsideRealEstateRadio.com. We're talking with Rocky Martin. I mention Rocky's name every week, and you hear me say RockyMartin.com is the website, Rocky with an IE. Of course, phone number where they're always standing by for all your mortgage, refinance, and cash-out needs, 866-607-5667. And we're talking about multiple offers. And we're going to it's just a huge part of what's going on right now. And so we're talking with Rocky about that. And, when you're picking an agent out there, buyers, look, going out and searching for an agent, it's you're not going out and looking at profile pics like you're dating, okay? This isn't any of those dating websites. You need to go out and spend a little time thinking about who you're going to use for your agent. Because guess what? You're going to get frantic. You don't want your agent to get frantic. So let's talk about those agents that get a little frantic. They're like, oh, we'll just put an offer in on 5 or 6 houses at once because, maybe one of them will go through.
Yes, and you know what's funny about that, Mike, because we've actually seen that where, Mr. Homebuyer is at work because that's what we do. We work to be able to earn a living, to be able to buy a home, and he can't get out to see that property until Saturday, and today's Thursday. And we've actually seen some agents that will go ahead and write offers on houses, and the borrowers hadn't even seen the house yet.
Right.
And that's that frantic thing because, there's not enough inventory on the market for the demand of the people that want to purchase a home.
Right. And that goes to the motivation of the agent that you pick. Because like I've said before, a lot of agents out there are part-time. A huge percentage of the 15,000 agents in the DFW area are part-time, and obviously they do work 100% on commission. So do you want someone that's frantic to try to get a sale, or do you want someone that's been in the business who's stable and they're there to help you, number one? Let's just say you put in, your agent commits you to 5 different offers. Well, guess what? Your signatures are on all 5 of those contract offers, and they are contracts. Guess what? All the seller has to do is sign them and execute them, and you're in a contract. You're in 5 different contracts for 5 different houses. What are you going to do?
Well, that's a tough one, because at the end of the day, it still costs you money. If you're a buyer and you're down that path, you're still going to lose potentially $75 to $150 to maybe $200 per property. And so, we've got a saying, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Right.
And, be patient, and working with a top real estate agent is so important because what I've seen over the years of being in the business for 25 years is that your top agents, there's a reason why they're the top agents. They're not necessarily just in the business to make a quick buck or make a quick sale. They really evaluate your needs. Where do you want to be? What school system? And you narrow it down to a square of where you want to be, then you just have to be patient, wait for that property to pop up that's the right one.
Exactly.
And that's so important, and an agent to really guide you. Mike does a great job. He's a real estate agent, been in the business a long, long time. And, integrity is so important, and Mike does a great job for his customers. And that's the type of agent when you're in the market, you've got to get someone in your corner, someone that's going to fight the battle. A lot of these real estate transactions, you run into things, and you have to work through these things. And my question to all of our listeners is, who's going to fight that battle for you? Who's going to help work those things out? And things pop up in real estate all the time. I can't tell you, every week when we're behind the scenes working mortgages and getting them all put together, how many times that we sit back and we see something that happens in a real estate transaction and we go, oh, that's a first. Well, we have lots of firsts in the business because there's lots of potential things that could happen.
Yeah.
But multiple offers, what we're all seeing as well is that if you're a seller and you're getting ready to list your property, plant some flowers, mulch the yard, spray the weeds, clean the house, have the carpets clean. In the market that we're in right now, that could mean the difference of you selling your property for full price, perhaps even more than full price, because we're seeing these homes come on the market, and let's say the list is 200, and it's in a great school system, a great subdivision, a very desirable area. That home could potentially bring more than $200,000.
Right.
And that's just the off the list price. So.
Yeah, and, for you folks that are out there that are, maybe FHA buyers or VA buyers, maybe a little bit more difficult for you competing against the conventional buyers or the cash buyers, because the conventional and the cash buyers can go over list price, so like if you're saying if it was listed at 200, it could go 210, 215. And the conventional and cash buyers have the flexibility to do that. And FHA, VA, if it's a USDA, we can maybe go over a list to what we think it can appraise for. But generally you're in that ballpark because you're putting less down, or maybe you need to have down payment assistance. So, we're working hard for you guys too, but it may take looking at the right type of properties.
Well, and what we've seen too is that, that's a really good point that you just made, because we're preparing our borrowers when we're pre-approving them on what can happen. Be prepared. This is how the market is now. And, so many people, have looked at in the past, you're purchasing a home as an investment. Buying your home is really more than an investment. It's a home. It's something that you want to raise your family in. You want to live there for a while. Now, to some people, perhaps investors, it's an investment for them.
Sure.
But the bulk of our business is that we're making dreams come true, and we're helping people with home ownership. And so, if you're if you find that finally you've been looking for 6 months, this house pops up on the market and it's the one, it's listed for $200,000. Get with your loan officer and find out, really sharpen your pencil on what all you can do. I'm preparing my customers right now saying, hey, look, when you're ready to put an offer in, you need to be prepared. You need to have your loan already approved with us.
Right.
We need to get, when your offer is, when you're putting your offer together, you need to put maybe a 3-week close on it. You need to offer to pay the seller's title policy, maybe even the seller's closing cost. Or if the house is listed for $200,000, you might offer them $202,000, and realize that could cost you a little bit more at closing, because if it only appraises for $200,000, well, that might be an extra $2,000 at closing. But at the end of the day, it's the home that will work for you. And if you'll look at what property values have done over the last 12 months, it's amazing where our property values are today. And when you have supply and demand, and our demand today is more than what our supply is, we're going to continue to see home prices go up. So if you're a buyer and you find the right house, even if you have to offer a few extra $1,000 and you have the ability to do that, it's still not a bad idea, because the trend in the market values right now is the arrow's moving up.
Right. Yeah, you're so right. And, buyers, you need to be ready. Look, this is not your mom and dad's market. It's not your grandpa's market. It's not even your 3 or 4 year old or brother's market. Okay. It's changed that much. This isn't, okay, oh, well, do you think we can go in and get the house for less? Can we lowball? Look, if you want to do that, maybe on a property that's been on the market for a long time and there's an opportunity there. Yeah, absolutely. If this is a hot property, it's ready to go, priced right. No, by and large, that's probably not going to happen. And so if that's your mindset, you need to get out of that. You need to get into more of that competitive mindset that, okay, when we find the home that you want, we're not just putting an offer to see what they do. Okay, we're not looking to waste time that way. When we find the right home that's for you, it's perfect for you, how much do you want it? And look, a few $1,000s over a 30-year note, a 15-year note, it's not that much of a big deal, okay? How much do you want the house? And that's where our market is. You have to change your mindset.
It is. And, and you made a very good point about what the market, our grandfather's real estate market, or when our parents bought their home, it is a very different market today. And, at the end of the day, when the right house does come up, you're not, thinking of it as an investment. We just hope we don't lose money on it. But at the end of the day, it only matters when you sell the property. But at the end of the day as well, the market that we're in right now, if it is the right house, it's where you want to be, and your family, you'll be happy raising your family there. That far exceeds, offering an extra $1,000 on the contract to get the offer. And, listing agents in today's market are doing a fantastic job for their sellers. I've never seen them do such a great job that they're doing in the market today, because when they do get multiple offers, they're evaluating those offers. And Mike made a point a few minutes ago about the type of mortgage that you're looking for. Listing agents evaluate, and they're looking at the borrower's pre-approval letter. They're looking at the type of financing. Okay, this guy's he's doing a VA loan. Well, sometimes listing agents, they sort of have a old opinion from the past that a lot of VA transactions, that because the VA appraiser does the appraisal, that a lot of times those values come in low. Well, that's just a perception. That's sometimes how it's looked at.
Right.
Then we've got a borrower maybe doing a USDA loan, and in the back of the listing agent's mind, they're going, well, they have no money. They're doing 100% financing.
Right.
But then here's offer number 3. It's a conventional loan. Borrower's putting 20% down. Which one do you think the listing agent's going to take? They're going to take the one with the conventional with the 20% down, because there's a pre-approval letter that shows the borrower with some cash to work with.
Right.
And that is very important, because in today's market, if you get 3 offers all the same price, I promise you the listing agents are looking at the type of financing that the borrowers are doing. So it kind of starts with, if you're looking to buy in May or June, you need to start the process right now, because you may have credit scores that will only be able to get you financing for FHA today. But if you apply for a mortgage loan today, especially with my team, we'll look at your credit and give you ideas of things that you can work on. And if you're buying in May or June or July, that can make a difference of you being able to do a conventional loan or an FHA loan. It can mean the difference of getting an offer on your dream home or having to keep looking for another home to pop up.
Absolutely. And folks, as a seller and a seller's agent evaluating offers, they evaluate those offers just like the lender evaluates a borrower on their creditworthiness. So there's a pecking order. And we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that and how important it is to also get your pre-approval letter through a seriously reputable company, because that's a huge part of getting an offer accepted as well. Folks, Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga, and then we're going to come back and talk a little more mortgage.
The J.C. Harder Insurance Agency in Uptown Dallas has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the J.C. Harder Insurance Agency Network. For a quote today on all your insurance needs, stop by J.C.'s office on McKinney Avenue in Uptown Dallas. Call 214-643-6108 or visit jcharderagency.com. That's 214-643-6108 or jcharderagency.com.
Sellers, how would you like your home sold guaranteed? Buyers, how would you like your bid guaranteed to win? Well, it's real simple. Call Mike Kruizinga with Chris Arnold Premier Realty and ask about their guarantee programs for both buyers and sellers. No one beats Mike's professional listing and marketing services for all price ranges, including luxuries and ranches. And few have the knowledge and patience to take first-time buyers from renting to home ownership in a tough market. Visit DFWMetroplexRealestate.com and mention you heard this on the radio. And listen to Mike Sundays, 8 a.m. on KLIF for Inside Real Estate.
With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today. For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
If you ever want to buy a car or a house, you're going to want to know your credit score, because banks will check it. And if there's a mistake on your credit report, you could pay more in interest rates and fees than you have to. That's with just one mistake. Where can you go online to quickly get your credit score and credit report for free? CreditKarma.com. Get your credit score, get your credit report. Check it whenever you like. It's free and there's no catch. You never need to enter a credit card. No trial subscriptions. It's just a free credit score and report right now. Because at Credit Karma, we thought you should be able to see what the banks see before you apply. Plus, Credit Karma can help keep track of your bills and your loans, and can even send credit alerts so you can watch errors on your report quickly, all for free. So don't get an unwanted surprise about your credit score or credit report. Go to creditkarma.com. creditkarma.com. That's creditkarma.com.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, Mike Kruizinga. We are back. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. We are back. We're going to do a little more mortgage talk because we got Rocky Martin here live in studio. By the way, website RockyMartin.com. That's Rocky with an IE, RockyMartin.com. 866-607-5667 is the phone number where they're standing by always for all your mortgage, refi, and cash out needs. We're talking about what's going on in the market right now. And, look, buyers, when you're submitting offers out there, part of the evaluation process on our seller's listing side is that we look through the offers, of course, to what the details of what's in the contract. But we also look at these pre-approval letters, and we call the lenders to talk about how well qualified these borrowers are. And, when we see a Supreme Lending Rockwall pre-approval letter, it's kind of known here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that, look, these guys have been vetted, and, you want to know that your buyer is vetted, and you want to assure your seller this buyer is vetted. Supreme Lending Rockwall has done the pre-approval on them, and that's a huge part of what you need to do. Ain't that right, Rocky?
Yes, it is. And I can't tell you, Mike, over the years, how many offers have been accepted because the listing agent evaluated the pre-approval letter, saw my name on there, and know that if we issue a pre-approval letter, that it's a good, solid pre-approval letter. And so, a couple other ideas, as a buyer preparing to put an offer in on a property. I've also seen some pretty interesting things this year. I've actually seen buyers go to the house and take a picture of them on the front porch and put a letter together, that the buying agent will send to the seller saying, this whole, we can see our house in this home. We love it. We're going to raise Junior here, and write a story. And when the multiple offers come in, if they're all the same price and everything, sometimes you can wear them on a little bit emotional.
True.
But at the end of the day, we all need to realize that when there's a real estate transaction, it's someone's home and someone else is buying that to be their home. And, if you're a buyer or you're an agent and you're working with a buyer and you're encouraging your buyer to put in 5 contracts on 5 different homes, you got to realize that this is a very personal situation for all parties involved. And so just remember that real estate is someone's home, and it's going to be, someone's buying it and going to be their home. But at the end of the day, we love what we do. We love helping buyers. As you, Mike, as an agent, you love working with buyers and sellers. We love the business. And so, but get prepared, get pre-approved, not just pre-approved, get your loan approval today. Don't wait. When you're working with your mortgage company, don't drag your feet on getting the documentation, and get it to them as soon as they ask for it. Agents, as far as pre-approval letters from different companies, there's a lot of companies out there that have a history of never closing loans on time, and it being very difficult. Well, we're in an industry, and with the services that we provide, we have to be on our game every single time that we're in the game. We've got to do a great job, not on every transaction that we do. I mean, not just on some of them, but every single customer we work with. We have to be on our A game, because if we're not on our A game, then you miss closing dates. If details are missed, well, you have a borrower now that does not qualify, which means you have a seller that's not selling his house, that's not buying the next house, and so on and so forth. it is so important in the market that we're in right now to really get everything taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. And, you know, folks, it can be a little bit emotional. And we always talk about, you know, we try as best we can to keep all the emotions out of it. Business is business. But at the same time, you know, Rocky is so right. You know, this is a home you're buying. And yes, it's your biggest investment that you're going to buy and or own most likely. But it's where you're going to live, where you're going to raise your family, you know, where you're going to live, you know, your time out with your spouse, you know, your pets, you know, it's your neighbors, it's the whole thing. And so, you know, if you are a seller, and we talked about this last week when, you know, Jason called in, we had a story that both Terry and I were working with, and heart-wrenching story, you know, and we're still looking out there. You know, if you've got a chance to do the right thing and you got a bunch of offers and they're all same zone, you know, maybe think about whose story is who really needs it. You know, and so if you are a VA buyer out there, for example, or USDA or FHA, don't get down, don't get discouraged. It's a matter of time finding the right property. Like Rocky says, everything happens for a reason. You know, how many times have I been in multiple offers with a VA buyer? But guess what? The seller appreciated the fact that that was a veteran and they served and they gave to our country and they won out. So you never know. So don't get discouraged. You know, if, you know, we hear about, you know, look, cash conventional offers are at the top of the list, sure, but don't get discouraged if you're in the other areas. And like Rocky says, it happens for a reason. Everything does.
It does. And, you know, and even if you are a borrower that's getting a VA loan or USDA, you know, also remember that, you know, the listing agent is working on the behalf of the seller to present them a contract that the seller can net the most money on. And so, you know, if you are a VA or USDA or whatever, you know, that we provide a lot of VA loans, a lot of USDA loans. They're all vehicles for types of financing with the borrowers with the specific needs that's the best program. And so, you know, but at the end of the day, it's even more reason to get pre-approved, get your loan done up front, get all your information, research about real estate transactions, how they work, everything's involved, what's happening with the market right now. Prepare your offer in such that it's an offer that the seller will accept. You know, don't think about, you know, so many people tell me, well, it's a piece of real estate. I'm at a sales price is $300,000. Mike, we're going to offer them $220,000. You know, that's not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to work in the market we're in. No. You know, you got to be prepared. Offer full price. Pay the seller's title policy. Pay the seller's closing cost. You know, if you really, really want it, then sometimes that's what you have to get.
Absolutely. And look, folks, I mean, we know the market. So if the market changes or that subdivision happens to be unique in the area, we're going to help you do the right thing. So maybe there is more wiggle room to negotiate there, but by and large, that's not really the case. Folks, this has been a great mortgage segment with the big dog, Rocky Martin. We really appreciate Rocky coming in and being part of our show and being one of the, you know, look, this guy he closes so many loans. He's at the top, the pinnacle of the business, folks. You want to work with the best. You want to work with the Rocky Martin team. RockyMartin.com, Rocky with an IE. Phone number 866-607-5667. Or if you give me a shout, we'll get you with them as well and his team. Been another great segment. Folks, we're going to take a short break, and then we're coming back for politics segment. We've got Weston Martinez running for railroad commissioner on the line. Be back in a few.
Living in the DFW area, expansive clay soil and extreme weather conditions play havoc on homes' foundation. But thankfully, you can turn to Permapeer Foundation Repair of Texas, who has successfully repaired over 20,000 properties and counting in the DFW area. With the most trusted, tried and true foundation repair methods, trust the professional staff of Permapeer Foundation Repair to take care of your property, and most repairs are backed by a lifetime transferable warranty. Mention Inside Real Estate Radio when calling Permapeer at 214-637-1444 or when booking online at permapeer.com for your Inside Real Estate Radio discount.
Do you know the difference between a business and a successful business? Excellent branding. You can increase your sales and branding recognition by attending a 1-hour free Cumulus Radio Branding Seminar Wednesday, March 16th. You'll learn the 4 keys of branding, how to use trigger events to drive business, and how to market your business. You'll even get a free lunch. To join us, call 214-523-2760. That's 214-523-2760.
Looking for a new career opportunity? Whether you're unemployed or stuck in a dead-end job, whatever the reason, you need to join us March 9th from 9 to 3 at the Plano Center for the Cumulus Putting Texans Back to Work Job Fair, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz of Plano. Visit PuttingTexansBackToWork.com for a complete list of the dozens of companies taking part and the hundreds of positions they're filling. Blue collar or white collar, there's something for you, plus free parking. Updated daily as more employers are added. That's PuttingTexansBackToWork.com, and we'll see you March 9th at the Plano Center.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we are back. It's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. Website, InsideRealEstateRadio.com, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Hey, coming up, Super Tuesday, just in a couple days. Early voting ended on Friday. I got my voting in on Friday, thank goodness. Super Tuesday coming up. And guess what? We've got a sitting Texas Real Estate Commissioner on the line here, and he's running for Railroad Commissioner, Weston Martinez. Mr. Martinez, you on the line with us?
Absolutely.
Good morning. How we doing today?
Man, I'm doing great. I just put a tweet out telling everybody to get their motor running this morning and tune in and listen to you. You know, I was in Dallas last night for an event, got home about 2 in the morning, and been up since 6, working hard.
You're running and gunning, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about, your background. And by the way, I voted for you on Friday, I'm happy to say.
Well, so I tell you what, I really appreciate it, and we've been thankful that citizens across the state of Texas have really been jumping on board with the campaign. Obviously, being a conservative leader is important in Texas, and people recognize that I have an oil and gas background history. So, just like a doctor, they got to know what they're operating on. So I'm very thankful for that. It means so much to me.
Exactly. Well, let's tell the folks that don't know, maybe get a little bit on your background, kind of what you're doing currently at Texas Real Estate Commission, a little bit about your oil and gas background, and then we'll kind of get in more to the railroad commissioner race.
Absolutely. So it's a fourth-generation Texan from San Antonio, Texas. My wife and I met in high school. So I married my high school sweetheart. We have 5 children, and we've been married now for 16 years. And she went to Texas A&M in College Station, and I went to Texas A&I on a bull riding scholarship. Most people in Texas love to hear about that. And from there, had a 20-year career in the telecom world at Southwestern Bell AT&T, and have had a great time in that career, and have dealt with the different issues with the FCC and PUC in the regulatory world, but have also been involved in politics from a very young age. And worked on the Republican Party of Texas for a couple of years, worked at all the different levels on different campaigns on the grassroots motivation and, sticking to our guns. I actually am I know a lot of your listeners have heard about the liberal Julian Castro. I'm the guy in San Antonio that started the recall election against him whenever he started that first bathroom ordinance.
Sure.
And when he gave the speech to the DNC convention a few years ago, I'm the individual that gave the rebuttal speech to his DNC speech. And so have been at the forefront of every conservative fight that you can talk about, especially in Texas, but and beyond, and have always just pushed the message of conservative principles without compromise, no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing. Governor Perry appointed me to the Real Estate Commission 4 years ago, so I've been serving the state of Texas in that commission as that position as a statewide commissioner. And be the individual that is putting conservative principles, small business principles enacted in that capacity, where we oversee all of the licensing of realtors like yourself. I know you're a realtor. I checked you're in good standing before I came on the show. And also the appraisers and also the inspectors. And so conservatives across Texas, they know that I'm a conservative. They know that commissioner and the commission, importantly, they know that we tell people about the fact that we started a services company selling frack water in the Eagle Ford Shale. So they understand that we understand the oil and gas industry. And because of those things, they really know that we're ready to do the job on day one and ready to serve the citizens of Texas in this capacity as railroad commissioner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was what was really important to me about your candidacy for railroad commissioner is your knowledge of that. Obviously, your strong conservatism and your strong leadership skills, and like you say, taking the fight to the folks that need to be in the battle. And, look, folks, we do need someone that's going to fight for us, in political office, no matter what the office is. And by the way, the railroad commissioner office is an extremely important office, and there may be a little bit of misconception about what the railroad commissioner office does. A lot of people think it has to do with railroads, but that is not the truth. Railroads are under TxDOT and have been for some time. By and large, what the railroad commissioner office has to do with is dealing with land and minerals, oil and gas industry, and so and then EPA and government restrictions, and so we need someone with that kind of knowledge. So let's get into those particulars a little bit, and then the race a little bit more.
Sure. Well, and again, you really summed it up really well earlier. And what we tell people on the campaign trail is, this race is about the future of Texas, and it's about how do we put people back to work in the oil and gas industry, and how do we actually articulate a message against the liberals like Obama. And I know that every one of us are so excited that we are now in the glorious year of the last year of the Obama presidency, and we're so excited that he's going to be gone come January 20th. But we also know that regardless of who gets elected to president, and we know it's going to be a Republican, we know it's going to take time to get all those liberals that were appointed by Obama out of the form of government. And so in that situation, I tell people, Mike, winning isn't luck. It's knowing how to fight. And in this situation, I'll tell you, people across Texas, it doesn't matter if you're, where you live. We want to make sure that they know that the oil and gas industry impacts about 40% of the Texas economy. So whether you're building homes or whether you're giving a sermon on Sunday and taking care of a flock in between, it truly has an impact on your environment. And so we want to make sure that people understand that. And once they understand that, then we talk about, very simply how, oil and gas production, it's up 300% in the last couple of years with all of the horizontal fracking going on. But our pipeline installation is only up 33%. So it doesn't take an economist to know that I don't have enough pipe in the ground to get my product to market.
Right.
And part of that is due to regulations by the EPA and different things that take place where they try to slow you down. And you've got environmentalist groups that don't get it, that are not out there trying to actually protect the environment. They're just trying to be obstructionists. And so when we're out there, we want to make sure that people know that. I'll give you a classic example. Your listeners, I'm sure, have heard about the Clean Air Act and about Obama and about the Paris Agreement and all these different things.
Sure.
They talk about attainment. They talk about emissions. And a very good fun fact for your listeners to tell all their liberal friends is that in Texas, the emissions that the gas passed from cows, cattle emissions, is greater than all of the emissions in the oil and gas industry in the state of Texas. And I know that's shocking to hear on a Sunday morning before people have had lunch. But if the EPA was really in touch and really was going to do what they say they're going to do, they would realize how ridiculous they sound and, how out of touch they really are. They have actually come out and said that fracking doesn't cause groundwater contamination. Now, I will tell you, if Obama's liberal EPA is going to come out and from the top state that fracking is not causing groundwater contamination, I would submit to you that it can't be done. So we have to make sure that we're articulating a message that is wrapped in truth, wrapped in solid science, when we're talking about the oil and gas industry. In y'all's area, seismicity is a big issue.
Sure.
And, all of the earthquakes that take place. And SMU put out a study just recently, and it's very interesting that the railroad commissioners today took that study. They went in and had their experts analyze it, and then they held basically a public town hall, kind of a good government sort of a process, which I really think was the right thing to do. And what they showed people is that the SMU study is not causing earthquake issues in your area. Now, SMU is projecting that it is, but when you get into the science of it, oversimplify it, let me just tell you, our groundwater drinking water is about 4,500 feet back up to the surface. So that's the depth of our groundwater drinking that we actually drink and consume. And the fracking that's taking place is at about 15,000 feet. So about 3 miles down in the earth is where we're getting our fracking, most of our horizontal fracking is coming from. And then the seismicity issues are actually taking place far beyond that. So when we talk about what's happening, when people really understand that in Texas, the way that the formation is made, the way that God has made it, it really is not really possible for there to be issues. But the Railroad Commission still has been very prudent, and they have taken the information from the SMU study, and they're trying to put the public first and make good practices. So your listeners will be glad to know, because I promise you the Dallas Morning News isn't going to tell you this. The Railroad Commission has actually denied permits to several injection wells that have been requested for permit in your area. So here we have a agency that the EPA would say is all about drill, baby, drill, and I'm for that, but we're doing it with a conscience. So as we move forward in Texas, we have to make sure that that's what takes in place. And so that message is really resonating across the state of Texas for people voting for Weston Martinez.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're absolutely right. Obviously, we need the oil and gas industry, as you say. So much of Texas is not only grown and been based on it, but still needs it for the future, but doing it in the right way. And, of course, people are worried about the things that you had just talked about, the seismicity as well as, the fracking impacting our water. And, it's funny that you mentioned earlier as you were talking, it's ironic that some of the government regulations, some of the government agencies are targeting the fracking and then delaying some of the pipelines and some of the needs that we need to get the product to market, because the drilling is actually where the main impact is. Running it from there to actual market is less impactful. So it's ironic that they decide to make a stand on that and try to impede that versus the actual exploration and mining of the product.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right. In this situation, sorry, you broke up there for a second. In this situation, if Raven Simone, I know your listeners are shocked that name's even going to be said on your program. If Raven Simone knew how much petroleum was part of her everyday life, these liberals are so out of touch with what's going on in the industry. And so production is very important. It's important to our Texas economy. The fracking has provided so much into our Texas economy just in the last couple of years, not to mention historically, that it's very much a fabric of our Texas economy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Let's talk a little bit. We've got maybe 3-4 minutes here to go. Let's talk a little bit about maybe you and some of the folks you're competing against, and maybe kind of draw some distinctions there, for folks. So as they're going in, if they haven't early voted and they're going in on Super Tuesday, some key factors kind of distinguishing you from the rest of the pack, rest of the contenders.
Sure. Well, and it's real exciting as we go across Texas, and you'll get a kick out of this. So, we got in the race at the 2 days before the filing, and, we've been involved obviously in lots of things before, but from the time we filed to today, we've driven right over 24,000 miles. So we have truly been burning up the asphalt as we have been from parts of Texas, just from all over. And it's been a great time visiting with people that really get it, like your listeners. They understand that in the race for railroad commissioner, one of the reasons why people are God is really blessing me with support across the state of Texas is, they look at they look at Weston Martinez and they say, man, here's a conservative guy with a backbone. Here's Weston Martinez, who actually has been on a statewide commission and understands the role of a commissioner and the role of a commission, and has served the citizens of Texas with honor. And here's a guy that actually has oil and gas background experience. In our services company selling frack water, I'll tell you what, there's not a more political thing in Texas besides water. I would submit the next political thing is oil, because without the water, you're not going to get the oil.
Right.
So as people look at the race, there certainly is another conservative in the race. But the distinction is that I'm the conservative that has the actual oil and gas background experience. And so when we're out there on the campaign trail, it's really exciting. People also, you can't buy a race in Texas. And I know that a lot of people feel that in this race, there's also an individual that's, guys put $2 million into this race of his own money. Mm-hmm. And, I've outraised the guy by like 400%. So it's, it is, and the guy, it's not like we've just been, it's very interesting to see how informed people are. And we're really thankful that as people look at Weston Martinez, they look at my race, social media truly has become an equalizer, not only in Texas, but in the national media. And so people are much more in tune to what's going on. It's very easy to do a Google search or to get on Facebook and Twitter, and for people to see that, leaders like Kathy Adams, our former state party chairman and conservative leader, is supporting me. The current president of Texas Eagle Forum, Jonathan Saenz of Texas Values, who led the fight to get the pastor protection bill passed in our last legislative session, and also pushed and helped win and lead the fight against the HERO ordinance in Houston, Texas, and other folks just, like Matt Rinaldi in your area. We're very blessed to have Matt Rinaldi's endorsement in this particular race. Obviously, I think he's been a great legislator, and I wish we had 150 more like him.
Sure, absolutely.
So we're very thankful that, our message of, we're the conservative with experience, trusted conservative experience is resonating with the people. And, God bless the other folks in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think you're absolutely right. And, I think there's sort of been an awakening maybe over the last, really 5 years nationally. People are starting to wake up and pay a little more attention to things, and that's a great thing. And unfortunately, we got to wrap things up. Look, folks, we've been talking here in our local politics segment to Weston Martinez, okay? He's running for the railroad commissioner job. He's been the sitting Texas real estate commissioner, and he's got oil and gas experience. Proven conservative, folks. Great guy. If you haven't checked out Weston Martinez, you need to do that. Folks, Inside Real Estate, Mike Kruizinga. See you next week. Neither the hosts nor the guests or contributors of the show Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga are attorneys, CPAs, tax advisors, or investment advisors, and are not providing legal advice during the course of the show. If you need professional legal advice or